Today, I'm gonna show you guys what a 400-hour Granblue fantasy account looks like. Let's get into it. So to be clear, this is 434 hours. Now, granted, not all of these hours are active. Sometimes they're AFK. Sometimes it's me like going up to go get food and stuff like that. But generally speaking, in basically every single waking hour that I've been playing this game, I've been AFKing something. Not AFK as in I'm not fighting something, but literally AFK in a fight or AFK farming a material by beating a boss, etc, etc. If you're curious about how I do that and how I get a lot of the resources that you'll see in today's video, you can literally just go find any of the past 2 or 3 maybe videos at this point that discuss a lot of the things that I think if you want to min-max your experience or optimize your playtime with this game, that's what you should be looking for. Let's move on though. So if we start off pretty simply, everything from the mastery tree is maxed. I've got everything from the collections, and honestly, my mastery is not that good. I've got 12 damage cap, and I've also got 20 crit rate alongside 20 normal attack, but I've got 2000 HP, which does literally nothing. Now, when it comes to masteries for my Lancelot, I've got literally everything maxed out. Max defensive tree, collection is maxed, everything is pretty much maxed. And then for my overmastery, I have a decent overmastery bonus, I would say. It's got 20% normal attack damage cap, it's got 20% crit rate, and it's got 12 skill damage cap up, which is something that I wish I would have had. Honestly, 20% I think is what's gating me from reaching the upper peak of stuff like score attack and stuff like that, but that's neither here nor there. It's kind of just for flexing, or if you want to kind of test your metal in terms of how much damage you do. Let's move along from that though. While completing all of your mastery or filling out all of your mastery notes is definitely a sign of completing the story, what's really more of an indicator for the end game, or when you're starting to hit the end game when it comes to Granblue fantasy, is what your sigils and what your weapon looks like. So at the top you can see I have the Damascus knife, the unseen. It's got plus 99, which is the mirage munitions. It's got the max awakenings, there's 6 red stars, and then you have the sigil build. Now I have several builds to kind of take a look at, and each of them are for different pieces of content, whether that be for a score attack, whether it's for my more general, you know, beating up the mobs, or sometimes it's just a build that doesn't have to rely on glass cannon. But ultimately I'll show you each of the builds, or which build I like running with each fight. But for the build that I have right now, this is the build that I run whenever I'm trying to, I guess, see how much damage or what the potential of Lancelot is, specifically against the target dummies. And as you can see, I have max quick cooldown, I have cascade, I've got nimble onslaught, and there is not a single defensive sigil in sight. You will notice that I'm actually a little bit overcapped on crit, and the honest to god truth is that, and even though I was also able to get damage cap on both of my class sigils, this wasn't enough, and it didn't really work out well enough with the build that I had to run in order to receive 100 crit and get the max damage possible for my test dummy build. So this is what I have right now. Featured within the build as well is stuff like tyranny, stamina, and life on the line. Ultimately, you don't want to double dip in stuff like stamina or tyranny when you also have access to, again, a flat attack increase. And again, if you just do the math, I believe life on the line is, I believe, 30%. Yeah, it's 36%. Whereas if I had decided to go double into tyranny, it only would have been 50% when I already had received 36% prior. So receiving or having 3 separate instances of damage increases in this case would have just been better, and that's why I have 3 separate damage increases. Now, supplementary damage is self-explanatory. It does a bunch of damage, it exceeds the damage cap, and war elemental is also really nice just because, wow, bonus damage, very nice. I do have 2 critical hit rates here, and that's not very common, and the reason for that is because of the right zone that I have. Unfortunately, the right zone that I had actually ended up having 9 stun power and a total of 7 and 4 damage cap, which made it 11. But I need this specific build because I'm trying to make a build where I only need 1 damage cap and therefore would have more opportunity or have more flexibility when it comes to rolling gear. But unfortunately, even after 400 hours of trying to find a right zone that had, you know, 10 crit or at least 9 crit, and in addition also had 7 damage cap and 5 damage cap for a total of 12, so I get 65 damage cap. Unfortunately, that wasn't possible, so what I have here is 64 damage cap. I don't know, it kind of felt bad. It is what it is. So hopefully, although I do only have 64 damage cap, long story short, it saved me a slot, and therefore I should have a little bit more flexibility, or I should have an additional slot that should open a slot for either more damage or more utility. I don't know, it is what it is. Now, if we move on to the second build, you'll notice a few things actually that are prominent in my build. The first is that I've kind of decided to see if nimble onslaught was actually worth it, or if I could actually get away with taking something like flat attack. Flat attack is traditionally seen as really bad, and I agree it is definitely really bad, but actually, although like level 15 and earlier stages only give you like 40 or like maybe like 100 attack, once you start hitting like over 40 or 45, you actually get a significant amount of attack. Now, this is a little bit of an untested build. I'm trying to see if I can actually hit the max damage cap alongside having flight over flight, and the reason why this is so important is because if you read what this trait does, it reads that attack power is lowered, but dodges are always perfect dodges. Now, again, I know that this would make sense to kind of pair alongside nimble onslaught, and honestly, if I could, I would want like, I don't know, like a supplementary damage 5 that also has nibble onslaught. But side games, whenever you want to drop me a sub 5+, I'm more than happy to take it. But until then, I've basically been trying to see if a little bit more damage or a little bit more flat attack in this case would do any justice to my build. But for everything else, the build is pretty standard. I have White Dragon's Oath to increase the utility and also the damage of my heavy attack. I do have Glory because I don't actually have a combo booster or a linked attack or any of these things, or any of these life on the line with crit, and I still want to hit 100% crit chance in this build. But now is where you get to actually see where all the demonic building or all the really difficult to find pieces come into play. It's a critical hit rate with damage cap. It's a White Dragon's Glory with damage cap. It's a White Dragon's Oath with critical hit rate, which is again not that uncommon. But until I can get a double damage cap that doesn't include stun power, this is kind of what I'm dealing with. I also have glass cannon because I want to do the most damage, and I also have an attack power that also has damage cap. Pretty difficult to find as well in my opinion, but long story short, all these things are here to increase my damage and maybe increase the damage cap that I have so that I could use flight or fight without doing literally 1/10 of the damage. But I do understand that this is a little bit niche, and ultimately I haven't quite found a build that makes flight over fight really good. So if you do find a build that has flight over fight though, that maxes out attack, please feel free to let me know. As far as I know, it's really difficult and super min-max to get it. Let's move on though. Now before we get into a lot of the damage checks and stuff like that, I did kind of also just want to go down and kind of show you basically what I've accrued over, again, farming and AFKing, etc. Just very quickly, you can see I've got a decent amount of rainbow prisms, and I've got max refill coins, but that means nothing. I've got a number of prisms. I'm pretty much max on refinium. Anytime that I end up AFKing, a lot of these resources go to max. I'm definitely still missing a lot of fortitude crystals because I'm trying to max out stuff right now, including characters like Percival because he's really good as AI. I have basically no shortage of any of the elemental orbs, shards, etc. My abyss orbs or abyssum orbs are pretty much max as well. Dark orbs max, dark shard pretty much max as well, or I just recently sold them. The thing that I'm probably missing the most of is the low level materials, stuff like the frostbeak claws or the frostbeak plates. These flame beast claws are also something that I end up having to farm quite often because it's very rare for me to farm them at all. I'm definitely, like I mentioned, am missing a lot of low tier materials, but for chilling demon eyes, this is basically my go-to in order to sell this for knickknacks, or on occasion, I guess, sometimes I'll trade it in for silver centrums. But as you'll see with the silver centrums later, I don't really need that many, just because I'm kind of bottlenecked more by the fortitude crystals than I am as opposed to the silver centrums. But Bazaar Wings, a lot of these things are kind of high in resources, or they're decently high, or I've just recently used them. I am definitely capped out on the Searing War Axes, or pretty much both War Axes whenever I end up farming. Purgatory Arm Guards have a lot of these. Purgatory Bones also maxed. Some of these could definitely be 999, and some of these, you may need more of. But just from the farming that I have been doing, again, pretty much never need to farm out any of these things. I haven't shown it as well, but my stock, again, of sigils and the amount of trans marbles that I have stocked up also kind of reflects just how many pities or how many treasures I basically sold in order to get to the pity. But I've got a few things like the Vulcan Bolas that I've been farming more recently, but I've been trying to find out or figure out a build that can farm it more easily, or I've just discovered the best way to farm it, which is, again, do the lower levels. But for some of these, like the Vulcan Bola, I've definitely had to do a little bit more research as for the best way to farm these things, because some of these I need to literally just be doing the lower stage, otherwise I get the Omega version instead of the Anima. But a lot of these characters, again, I've been using for gear or to level up some of the characters recently. And then we have the silver centrums, and as you can see, I've got 187, which is nothing super insane by any means. However, it is kind of just an indicator, because I remember when I was first starting playing the game and I wanted to upgrade or awaken a weapon, I would kind of dance between 30 to 40, and now I'm at 187, and I haven't traded in literally anything for silver centrums in maybe a week at this point, which is, again, pretty crazy. For crewmate cards, of course, I've got every single character, and this was just a really, quick, brief overview. But if we talk about the transmute sigils, it is unfortunate because I wish there was literally just a way for me to see my entire history of how many trans marvels I've ran down and how many I've used. But I have at this point definitely gone well over maybe 5,000 or 6,000 trans marvels. It is insane how annoying it is to do it on my mouse and keyboard, to be honest. So that's literally why today I got myself a controller. I highly recommend you do this because, again, it takes a lot of effort to literally not do this, and it's really not worth it to be left clicking and breaking my mouse as much as I am. I'd rather just click A, which is, again, much more peaceful. I can kind of just leave this in my lap, look at something else, or watch a TV show and do this at the same time. But that's pretty much how many trans marvels I've got. Now, in terms of how many sigils I've collected total, Obviously, these are only the ones that I've, you know, kept in my inventory. And as it is right now, I just haven't cleared out a lot of them. So I'm probably closer to like the 12 to 1300 range at the moment. A lot of these are just me being a hoarder and pretty much things that you get from, again, drops or from clearing stuff like Bahamut. Probably at this point, maybe like 30, 40, maybe even 50 damage cap pluses or something to that extent. If you are someone that has tried to farm out all the weapons in the game, you know how annoying it is to try and, you know, pity a character's weapon or, you know, get a weapon that isn't yours. So then you're sitting there and you're farming it out more. And then by the time I realized that, I figured I might as well just get all the weapons, and I was definitely unluckier rather than luckier. So then I ended up getting a lot of things like damage cap, tyranny, stamina, and I still am really annoyed because I haven't gotten a crit rate on some of the damage cap, which, you know, if you think about it, if you get crit rate and damage cap, then you don't need damage cap and crit. Whatever. In any case, the point is that I've got a lot of sigils, and if we take a look at the right stones, I've also only got about like 400 to 500, I believe. These are, I'm a little bit more hesitant to keep because, you know, unlike with sigils where you're going to need upwards of like 10 or maybe like even 11, 12, 13 for like the flexibility of a build, you pretty much only have one imbue or one right stone. So a lot of this is just hoarder mentality. But in totality, I definitely at least have 400, maybe 500 saved up actual right stones that I would save up or use, which is cool. It's pretty enjoyable. I'm usually sorting through gear and I have to find the best one, which makes it not so cool. And again, I kind of hate my hoarder tendencies, but that's just what I've gotten so far. The final thing that I do want to talk about are the different awakenings that I've gotten. And in all honesty, the main issue that I have with a lot of the awakenings is that some of these resources are just absolutely terrible to farm, which is why for a lot of these characters, I've kind of put them at the end of the line. I've not really focused too hard on them. But if you're curious, I have Lancelot's weapon, Max Awakened, obvious because he's my main. I have Narmaya because Narmaya is waifu. My Eugen also has his Awakening Max because I like using him as one of the stun bots for one of my, you know, one of my AFK methods. Vasaraga's weapon is not maxed and honestly, doesn't matter, but I like using him with this HP one because that's pretty much all I use with him. The last couple of characters that I have in terms of upgrades towards their weapons, I've been trying to upgrade Rakam's a little bit because I like using him when I have to farm Slimepede. And I believe, is it? Oh yes, Percival's weapon is currently in progress for being upgraded, which is honestly, oh wait, actually, sorry. Id's weapon is also completed because I did the guide, but Io's weapon and I believe Percival's weapons were the ones that I was going to upgrade next just because they're really decent or they're really good, both as AI and both as characters that I am kind of interested in playing. But ultimately, guys, I don't have that many awakenings. It does take a lot to upgrade these weapons, but more so than the silver centrums, what I'm actually lacking is just the little raw material or the raw resource that I haven't farmed out yet. And since there isn't something like an Azurite Splendor or a Damascus Ingot to upgrade this, it's kind of on the back burner. It is what it is. And finally, for the inventory section, if you're curious, you can look up there. I have got a total of, I believe, 33 million gold, which pretty much means nothing to me. If you've done any Slimepede, you probably have a similar amount of gold. I personally haven't struggled with anything relating to gold in a long time, so it is what it is. The final thing that I do want to kind of go over very briefly is kind of the characters, and again, not all of their gear is good or anything like that, and sometimes the power rating is a bit biased, so I just want to go through kind of quickly and show you the different characters that I have or what characters are kind of semi-upgraded. We have Lancelot, we have Narmaya, Eugen. Pretty much if they have over or if they have at or over 20,000, it means that they're decently built. If they're like just under or like between that 18 to like 20,000 range, they probably have their awakening but no sigils. Again, I have a 87,000 HP Vasaraga, but he could have more HP if I actually maxed out his weapon and got some other stuff upgraded. I also don't have his boost notes. The MC is not leveled at all. Catalina is upgraded a little bit, but she's on kind of budget gear. I was seeing if you could double Glaciate or if you could, you know, use this character better to stun some of the characters like Garrison and stuff. Didn't end up working. It's still fine though. Rakam also has a decent amount of gear on him just because I want to use him for fighting Slimepedes. Io is kind of ungeared. I think I just did her Fate episode or something, which is why I have that extra slot. I definitely haven't played her in a little bit. Rosetta not geared. Charlotta not geared. Gondagoza not geared. Fairy not geared. Vayne not geared. Percival is really good because he does a lot of damage and he has solid buffs, but ultimately I am just trying to replace Narmaya because she doesn't really provide nearly as much as Percival does in terms of damage and overall buffs and stuff like that. As well, Siegfried, I don't really have him upgraded. Caligostro, I do have her on somewhat of a, I guess she has like a little bit of damage, but I was trying to run her on a quick charge and like a bit of like a cooldown build, primarily just because I wanted her to save me if I ended up being in trouble and she has a revive. Yodarha is not geared at all. Zeta is not geared. And then finally, Id was formerly geared and you saw him in the, you know, in the showcase or the, I guess the class guide for this character. Pretty much nothing came of this character though. He's kind of weak. The more and more I tried him out and saw how he was, especially on the target dummy, he's not that strong. And then ultimately, even in normal combat, it feels like if you want, you know, more CC, you could use someone like Lancelot or Catalina. It feels feels like if you want more damage, you could probably use someone like Rakam, or you could use someone like, I don't know, Percival. It is what it is though. Maybe some of these characters will get balanced in the future. Who knows? Now, if you've made it this far into the video, thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Love you. However, I do know you guys are probably interested in the damage, so I am going to include a few runs here. These were runs that I did with some of my Discord members, so if you want to join in on some of these runs, feel free to join, or like, you know, comment or anything like that. But ultimately, the goal of these runs were to see basically what a Lancelot would look like at the top end and also at the bottom end. You know, if I'm trying to play really greedy, or if I'm just trying to play on average and I don't know if I'm going to be able to, you know, get all my damage off. So some runs had, you know, glass cannon without fight or flight. Some of them had fight or flight. It is what it is though. Enjoy. And so those were my runs, and if you're curious just about how much damage I can do on the dummy, this is actually currently my personal best, even though I'm technically missing a little bit of damage cap, and also my masteries aren't that good. In any case, I don't have the best gear, I don't have the best masteries, I don't have the best of anything quite yet, but in terms of my personal best for the score attack, this is my 60-second run. And so at the end of it all, guys, this is my 400-hour account. Obviously, there are probably accounts that are better than mine or luckier than mine, anything in between, unluckier. It is what it is, guys. This is just kind of how my account played out. If you guys enjoyed, or if you learned something from today's video, make sure to like, comment, turn on the notification bell, subscribe. Let me know what you think about Granblue, if you think it's worth it, if you think it's been enjoyable, if you think I should have played 400 hours, if you think I should have refunded after 2, anything in between. I appreciate all the comments and all the feedback, guys, sincerely. In any case, though, that's going to be it for this video. Hope you enjoyed. Make sure to tune in on stream. I am definitely going to be playing more with viewers, or if you guys need help, feel free to ask me either on Discord or even on stream, and I'll be more than happy to do runs with you guys or answer any questions that you have. In any case, guys, that's it. Thank you so much again for watching. See you on the next one. Adios.